Hi, I'm Rob Richardson. Welcome to Scottish Summit. Thanks to the sponsors who've made this event possible: ScriptRunner, Global Driving Data Quality, Proximio 3, Redspire, Agilicis, and Hitachi. If you want to look at the real heroes that have made this possible, let's take a look at our event organizers and the staff. They're the people who have made exceptional contributions in making this event possible. I am really honored to be able to join us today at Scottish Summit and to present to you about Kubernetes. Some of the things that I've done recently: I'm a Microsoft MVP and a friend of Redgate. You can grab these slides right now on robrich.org. Let's head there. If we come to robrich.org, we can find At the Helm of Kubernetes, and we can dig into both the slides and the code. The code is up on GitHub right now. While you're here at robrich.org, click on About Me, and you'll see some of the things that I've done recently. I'm a Microsoft MVP, a friend of Redgate. AZ GiveCamp is wonderful. AZ GiveCamp brings volunteer developers together with charities who otherwise couldn't afford software services. We start building software Friday after work. Sunday afternoon, we deliver that completed software back to the charities. Sleep is optional, caffeine provided. If you're in Phoenix, come join us for the next AZ GiveCamp. Or if you'd like a GiveCamp here in your area, hit me up on email or on Twitter, and let's get philanthropy installed in your neighborhood as well. Some of the other things I've worked on: I do Docker and Kubernetes training. I worked on the Gulp project in version 2 and version 3. And my claim to fame: I replied to a .NET Rocks podcast episode. They read my comment on the air. They sent me a mug. Woohoo! So there's my claim to fame. So let's dig into Kubernetes and Helm. Helm, the tool for building infrastructure for mere mortals. Well, what is Helm? Well, it's a package manager. Helm can template YAML files, it can build installable packages, and we can use that to share these packages with others. Well, doesn't Docker do that? Well, yes, it does, kind of. Docker does this for all of the packages that we install, all the software, all of the libraries that we install on the machine. But configuring the cloud resources, getting the services, the deployments, the ingress, all of that into place, that's the realm of Helm. Helm is not replacing Docker or Docker Hub. Rather, it's creating a mechanism to do this for the YAML files as well. Helm is the configuration package management tool, where Docker is the content configuration management, the content management tool. So let's dig into some Helm demos and see how it works. Now, ahead of time, I grabbed this repository, created some mechanisms in place. I built this project using the CLI so that I just had a website to play with. In addition to that, I built up a Docker file that was able to build this into an image. I've built this image and it's ready to go. I also created this Kubernetes YAML file. Now, this Kubernetes YAML file describes the service, the deployment, and the ingress involved in deploying this content. But, well, there's a lot of duplication here in this project. We've got, at the helm all over the place. For one, let's see if we can create a mechanism to focus in on the values that we really care about and leave some of this duplication aside. Okay. I'm going to create a new folder here. I'm going to create a folder called chart. New folder, chart. Now we can call it anything. I just happen to call it chart. It's a decent convention. Inside chart, I will build a new folder and I will call this templates. Now that templates folder is the folder that Helm will use to be able to scaffold out and template all of the YAML files that I build. Okay, here inside the chart folder, let's build a new file and let's call this values.yaml. Now here in this values YAML are the values that I want to focus in on. Let's look through this Kubernetes YAML file and go find all of the pieces that are duplicated. here's the name at the Helm. We've got that one. Port 80. Great. Service type. Ooh, let's go grab that one and set that in place. Type isn't very descriptive, so I'll call it service type. I may choose node port or cluster IP, maybe load balancer. Okay, cruising down, we've got the number of replicas. That's a good one to be able to set in our file that we want to focus in on. Now we've got the image label. Let's make that one. Now version isn't very descriptive, so I'll call it image label. And we've got a registry. As we form the image URL, we are using the image label and the name and, well, the registry. So let's grab the registry and set that into place. Here's our port. Ooh, we've got some resources. This might be different between different projects. Let's put resources here in our configuration file. As we get to ingress, not every project may have an ingress. So let's say ingress enabled true. If we don't have ingress, we can set that to false and just not render this whole section. Now we do have some ingress annotations, so let's go grab that. And we also have some other content here inside of ingress. We have the ingress host name. Now what's really cool here is these are the values that we care about. This is what we'd like this YAML file to be. It's all the configuration details that we need. The rest of it is, well, boilerplate. Let's see if we can make that go away. Well, rather not go away, but rather generate it based on the values that we have here in our YAML file. Okay, so I'm going to, in my chart folder, I'm going to go grab a chart.yaml. Let's go find the folder here. I've got a, not there, here. Chart.yaml. I'm going to set this chart.yaml in place, and this chart.yaml just kind of describes to Helm the details that we need in our chart. Now we have an API version and a name at the Helm. Oh, so we don't need the name here in our configuration file. We've already got it. That's great. A description. We have a type. The type can either be application or library. If it's a library, that is a chart that can be used by other charts to add additional functionality, maybe to template out dependent resources. In this case, we have an end user package, so we'll create a type of application. Next, we have a chart version. This is the version of our chart, and an app version, the version of our application. Now, in most cases, they're probably going to be the same, but if we find a typo in our chart, then we can increment the chart version but still document that we're specifying the same version of our application deployed with this chart. Okay, so we have the chart.yaml and we have values.yaml, the two main files that we'll focus in on as we're building out our Helm chart. Now, let's build out some templates. Here in the Kubernetes YAML file, we had a service and a deployment and an ingress. So let's separate those each into separate files. That'll be a little bit easier to see. New file, service.yaml, and we'll set the service there. Let's go grab the deployment content, and we'll set this content inside of a new file, deployment.yaml. Finally, we'll go look in our Kubernetes YAML file for ingress content and put that in ingress.yaml. Ingress.yaml. Great. So now we have service, deployment, and ingress, each in separate files. That's a little bit easier to see. Now, Helm is a tool for building out these YAML files. And we can use our values here to insert into these templates to be able to build out the content that we need. So instead of at the helm, let me use .chart.name. Now, in all the places where we've got at the helm, we can use chart.name, and it'll grab that out of our chart.yaml. Similarly, here for port, we can say .values.port, and I'm referencing this value that I set here in values.yaml. Well, I need that in two places, so let's set that here and here. And we also have a service type. So here I will say, I would like this to be service type. Wow, the majority of our service file is just kind of boilerplate, arranging all our variables in interesting ways. That's pretty cool. Let's look at the deployment and do similar things. Well, we've got an image label, so let's say image label. We'll probably do that a few times. Here's image label again. Ooh, we've got at the helm a bunch of times. Let's do .chart.name for each of the places where we say at the helm. Okay, I'll just grab at the helm, replace them with chart.name. Ooh, if I were to grab another project, I just update that name in one place and it takes effect in all the places. Perfect. We've got our registry URL. Let's set that in place. Registry. I am going to put a single tick around it so that YAML realizes that it's just a single value. That'll help a little bit. Here we'll go .values.port. And now we've got all of these details dialed out. Now, one of the things that I do want to add is a notes.txt. This notes will get used by our chart in interesting places as we spin it up. Now, this notes can say anything, but in this case, we'll say, hey, thanks for installing chart.name, chart.version. We'll document the release name, document a little bit of how to use it. We can specify the service type. This is a great readme file to show how to use this particular chart. Now, one of the things in here, if values.ingress enabled. Ooh, if we have an ingress, we can show the ingress details, and otherwise, we can just show the other parts. Let's use that same technique here in this ingress folder. Let's say if .values.ingress enabled, and at the end here we will say end. Now these are standard Go templates, so if you're familiar with Go, then this is old hat. But if you aren't familiar with Go, it's pretty much a standard handlebar syntax, and so you can jump in pretty easily. Here at the helm, we'll say .chart.name, and we'll use that here as well. Here we'll use .values.port, and here we'll say .values.host, or .ingress host. Okay, so if there is an ingress, we'll render out this file, and if there isn't an ingress, we'll just skip this section altogether. That's perfect. Well, let's check it out and see how it works. Helm lint. I'm going to give it the name of the chart that we're going to lint. So in this case, I called my folder chart. Looks like it worked. We don't have any typos. Very nice. Now we could scaffold out anything. In this case, we're only scaffolding out a service, a deployment, an ingress, and this notes file. but we could just as easily scaffold out PVs, PVCs, roles, role bindings, config maps, secrets, anything that our application needs. Maybe we need a service together with the related database. In this case, we only need the service, deployment, and ingress. But let's level up a little bit and talk about how to build out annotations. Now, we may have more than one annotation, so we can't just grab one value like this. Instead, let's do annotations like this. We want to say to yaml.values.ingress annotations, and we want to indent 4 spaces. Now, why 4 spaces? Because 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it'll line up correctly in our YAML. So go grab all of the pieces here, and all of those annotations will now be listed. Perfect. We'll want to do that here in our deployment as well for the resources. Now in this case, for the resources, we don't just want to indent 4 squares, rather we want to indent 10 squares for the resources. Now that will line up correctly as well. One of the things that we notice here is that if, for example, our registry is blank, then we'll get a leading slash here. Now we probably don't want the leading slash. If we have a registry, we want registry slash thing. But if we don't have a registry, we probably just want to start with the chart name. Let's in here say if.values.registry. Then let's dump in the registry name and the slash. But if we don't have a registry, then let's just start with chart.name : image label. That's perfect. Let's Helm lint again, make sure that everything worked out okay. Great, our chart's looking really nice. Okay, so how do we then leverage this to do the content that we need it to? Let's run this template. Helm template chart. Now when I run this template, we can see that we've pretty much built the exact same initial YAML file that we had. All of our variables are in place, and they're all focusing in on the pieces that we want. We could now copy and paste this chart into each of our microservices. Well, let's take a look and output this to a file. We'll say, let's output to dis.yaml. Okay, now we've got dis.yaml, and we can compare dis.yaml to our original k8s.yaml. Let's see. Did we scaffold it correctly? Well, here in dis.yaml, we do see that we've got a few more comments telling us what the original file names were. And we've got the quotes around the image label so that all of the ifs work out correctly. But yeah, we got it. We were able to build up the exact same file that we needed to. Okay, so now we could probably drop that k8s.yaml and just use Helm to template out the content. Okay, so now how do we set some things? Here inside our templates, we do have a few places where we may want to set them. Maybe our registry URL is a variable. Our image label probably depends on the build that we're setting. And our Kubernetes URL is probably dependent on the content in our cluster. That's perfect. Let's do that. Helm template chart. We will set image label to v0.1.0 and ingress enabled equals false. Okay, with that version set, we now see that that label is set correctly. And you notice that we have the service and the deployment, but we no longer have the ingress. We chose not to render that at all. Perfect. So let's do this same mechanism we'll say Helm template chart, and we'll set some variables here. We'll set image label to 0.1.0. We'll set the host to blank. We'll set the registry to blank. And we will pipe that to kubectl apply-f. Wow, we just went and created all of those things and applied it into our cluster. Kubectl get all, and we can see that content is ready to go. Kubectl get ingress, we see that we don't have one. That's ideal. Okay, Helm template. Let's actually go delete that content. So Helm template chart, and instead of kubectl apply, we will kubectl delete -f dash, and now that content is gone. Kubectl get all, and it's on its way down. Now that's great if we just want to build up our templates, maybe scaffold them in the middle of our DevOps pipeline, and substitute in the variables that we need specific to the build. If we're not going to deploy this in any other mechanism, that might be perfect. Great. But let's see if we can build these into distributable packages. Helm package chart. Now I've created this chart here in at the Helm. So let's go there, and I can see this at the Helm file right here. Okay. Well, we probably want to set the values inside that chart. So let's do that. Helm package chart --app -version 0.1.0 --version 0.1.0. And the destination in the dist folder. Okay, that set those pieces in place. And now if we go look at the content in our dist folder, we can see that piece. Let's delete that again. I would probably like to set values in the same way that I set it in the other one. I want to say this, and then I want to say --set image label. Unfortunately, the --set version doesn't work with package. But we can come here to this Helm plugin, Helm pack, and Helm pack is basically Helm package, but it also allows us to set some variables. So we can say Helm pack that folder --set, my property equals my value. So with that Helm plugin installed, let's do exactly that. Let's go grab this chart and we will package it into place. I'm going to set the image label to 0.1.0, the registry to blank, the ingress host to blank, and we successfully packaged that file. Okay, let's unpack this and take a look at it. 7-zip, extract here. Let's extract the tar file as well. And let's compare this folder to the chart folder. So I see that all my template files are identical, but here in the values file, I do have the values substituted into place that I've set. Image label is v0.1.0. I've got ingress enabled true. I've cleared out my image label and ingress host, my registry and ingress host. Now it did sort them alphabetically where I didn't have them alphabetically. That's fine. What's the difference in our chart.yaml? The version. And it removes some white space. So no big deal there. That's cool. We created this package that had some variables set. And we can now dig into that package to dig out those details. So let's go pack that chart again. And now we can Helm install my app, we'll just give it a name, and we'll point it at the folder where that Helm chart package is. I can also now override some things. So let's say ingress enabled equals false and replicas equals 2. Okay. Ooh. Fail there. Let me try that again. There we go. Now, as we installed this package, it did all of the processes of spinning it up on our Kubernetes cluster. And it output our readme.txt. That's cool. So the name of my app is my app. That's just what I chose to call it in my Kubernetes cluster. And we can see some instructions. Ooh, Helm status, my app. Now it's going to go look at it and show me the things that are deployed, which is, well, basically this. It'll also dump my README file, kubectl get all. I'll see that I've got my content running. At the Helm, here's my stuff, and I didn't need to worry about what are the configuration files, what are the values. I just set the values that I cared about. That's cool. Helm list. Here's all the Helm packages that I have installed right now. Well, in this case, I only have one chart installed. Helm get all my app, and it will show me all of the resources that it created. Here's the YAML that it put in place and my README. Okay. So now if I go to kubectl get all, now if I come to this service, I can get to my application. So let's do that. Let's go to localhost, that port. Here's my application running. Nice. Okay. So, well, what if I want to upgrade my app? Let's say Helm upgrade my app.dist at the Helm. Now in this case, I'm upgrading it with exactly the same version that we had, but we could imagine rebuilding our package and pushing that new package into place as well. Helm list, and I can see that now I'm on revision 2. I still grabbed this version from, or this chart with that version, but I've got my second revision of this application installed on my cluster. Okay, well that's interesting, but what if I want to put 2 versions of my application in place? Now right now, my charts say nothing about making them unique. They're just going to put that content into place. But we can do this a little bit easier by adding in the release name in many places. So here in our deployment, let's name this chart name dash release name. We'll put some match labels and we'll put release here as well. We'll put release here. Our containers are still named the same, so that's fine. But now we have something that is specific to this deployment. Let's do the same thing in our service. We'll go to there. Our selector will also have the release. Our target port and values are the same. That's great. Here in the ingress, we will give it a unique ingress name as well. And now the service name that we're pointing at will include that release also. Okay, so now that we've got an upgraded chart that will be version specific, let's do that. Let's pack this chart, and we're still using the same version of our application, 0.1.0, but the version of our chart is now 0.1.1, the one that knows how to deploy multiple versions in place. Okay, let's install this package. I'm going to call this my app2, and now I have 2 versions of my application, kubectl get all. I see that I have my original one that didn't support multiple versions, but I now have the new version with the release name prefixed into all the places. That's great. So let's Helm uninstall my app to Helm uninstall my app. And now all that content will go away. I didn't need to worry about dependent resources. It was just all gone. So now what if I want to run charts from others? Well, let's pop open this artifact hub where we can go search for packages that might have been published by others. Not that unlike Docker Hub, Artifact Hub for grabbing Helm chart packages. Now this doesn't replace Docker Hub. Docker Hub is still where I get my images. This replaces all of the Kubernetes configuration YAML. This is configuration images. So let's search for something like Nginx. Well, if I search for Nginx, ooh, this one looks interesting. Let's dig into the Nginx from Bitnami. Okay, now what we notice here is that this is not just a repository of charts, but rather a repository of repositories. Let's Helm repo add the Bitnami repository. And then let's go instantiate the Helm chart for Nginx. Now, I didn't need to worry about what's involved in this. What is the container name? All of the pieces of that is just abstracted away from me. That is perfect. Helm list. I've got Nginx running right now. kubectl get all. With no effort at all, I now have Nginx behind a load balancer, and I can reach out to this port and go grab my Nginx content. So let's go to localhost. And here is our Nginx server. Just like that, we pulled down the Helm chart that included Nginx. It pulled down the container that it needed, and we started up our application. Helm uninstall my Nginx. That's the list of Helm list. Helm uninstall my release. And now Nginx will be gone. kubectl get all. Nginx is off. That's great. So what we saw was that Helm has three major groups of features. We can scaffold any YAML file. We can remove that duplication. And it is a superset of standard Kubernetes CRDs. So we can start to scaffold out anything, whether we want to scaffold out deployment services and ingress, or whether we wanted to scaffold out applications and their dependent databases, or roles and clusters and secrets. All of that is possible here with Helm. Helm is an install tool. So at the point where the application is running, that's where Helm's job is over. It can't monitor, scale, heal. You can do that in your Kubernetes YAML files, but you'll need to code those YAML files. So if we want to get this process of being able to do this, the healing and health monitoring, that's where we would reach for a Kubernetes operator. Now, Kubernetes operator is a whole nother thing, but there are different levels of operators. You can take a Helm chart and turn it into an operator. Now, it is only really level 1, so it will just basically install. It won't do the lifecycle, insights, and autopilot. If you use Ansible, you can get to level 3, where you can start to do a few of the lifecycle hooks. But if you really want an operator that can monitor and scale and self-correct, then that's where you'll need to use the Go SDK. Kubernetes operators are amazing, and as you grab these slides from robrich.org, click through to the blue links, and you'll be able to get exactly to those pieces. So Helm is great for removing the duplication. We saw the major functionality of Helm, where we can template content And if all we need to do is template it in the middle of a DevOps pipeline, we can stop here. Or we can package content and then share it with others. We saw how we could use Helm pack to be able to take a folder and set some configuration on the way through and create this bundle that we could then install in lots of places. Or we can level up again and start to share and pull images and configuration data from Artifact Hub. We pulled down a bundle, a Helm chart, that included all the details about loading Nginx, the service, the deployment, references to the image. We didn't need to do any of that because, well, all of that was bundled in the artifact, in the chart. Helm is a really great tool to remove the duplication and let us focus in on the things that we need to focus in on. It's really fun getting to present Helm to you. I'm grateful to be here at Scottish Summit and grateful for the organizers and sponsors that have made it possible. I'll join you in that spot where the conference has designated for Q&A. If you're watching this online, grab me on Twitter at rob_rich or email me from the links at robrich.org. You can grab both the slides and the code online right now at robrich.org. Thanks for joining us, everybody.